the smile that didn't reach their eyes. The first time I realized my son's in-laws were dangerous, they were sitting at my dining table, complimenting my pot roast. "This is delicious," Linda Whitmore said, pressing her napkin to her lips with the kind of politeness that felt rehearsed. "You must have learned this recipe from your mother." I smiled back because that's what women like me do. Women who grew up believing good manners could smooth over anything. Women who raised sons alone in modest Midwestern homes and learned to survive by being agreeable. But I watched her eyes. They flicked not to me but to the hallway, to the framed photos, to the open doorway that led upstairs. She wasn't admiring the meal. She was taking inventory. That was the moment I understood. This wasn't just about family. This was about control. And by the time they were done, my son wouldn't even realize he'd lost everything. I'm not the kind of woman people expect to set traps. I'm 62 years old, a retired school secretary. I bake for church fundraisers. I cry at dog food commercials. I live in a tidy ranch-style house in suburban Ohio with beige siding, creaky floorboards, and a mortgage that's been paid off for 5 years. But I also raised my son, Daniel, alone after his father walked out when Dan was 8. I learned early that predators don't always bare their teeth. Sometimes they smile and ask for seconds. Daniel met Emily Whitmore 3 years ago at a charity run in Columbus. She was beautiful in that clean, effortless way. Long chestnut hair, perfect posture, teeth so white they looked unreal. She volunteered for everything. Fostered dogs, organized coat drives, posted Bible verses on social media next to photos of green smoothies. I wanted to dislike her. Instead, I tried very hard not to love her too much. Because women like Emily don't marry into families like ours without a reason. The first warning sign came 6 months after the wedding. Before we begin, if you enjoy stories that touch the heart and remind us of life's quiet miracles, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It truly helps our little storytelling family grow. Daniel stopped calling as often. Then he stopped coming by on Sundays. Then one afternoon I drove past their new house, the one I helped them buy, co-signing the loan because Emily's parents insisted it looked better on paper. The curtains were closed. My son's truck was gone. But Linda's Lexus sat proudly in the driveway, parked where Daniel always used to park. I told myself I was imagining things. I told myself it was normal. Newlyweds needed space. Emily's parents were just very involved. That's what people say when they mean overbearing. That's what people say when they're already afraid. It was at Thanksgiving when the mask slipped. We were gathered at the Whitmore's house, an enormous colonial with a wraparound porch, imported stone countertops, and furniture that looked staged rather than lived in. Everything smelled like money and pine-scented cleaner. Emily's father, Richard, carved the turkey with surgical precision. Linda poured wine like she was hosting a board meeting. And Daniel, my Daniel, sat at the far end of the table, shoulders slumped, laughing too loudly at jokes that weren't funny. "So," Richard said casually, sliding the knife down, "we've been talking." I felt my stomach tighten. Emily reached for Daniel's hand. He didn't squeeze back. "We think it's time Daniel considers stepping back from his current job," Richard continued. "It's not aligned with where we see your future going." My son blinked. "Stepping back?" Linda smiled. "Temporary, sweetheart. Just until we streamline things." "Streamline what?" I asked. The table went quiet. Richard finally looked at me. His eyes were cold, assessing like he'd just noticed a stain on the carpet. "Family finances," he said. "We're very structured people." Daniel laughed nervously. They mean, Emily interrupted gently, "that maybe it's time you stop trying to do everything yourself." The words were soft. The message was not. That night, I followed Daniel into the kitchen while Emily's parents argued about dessert pairings. "Are you okay?" I asked. He shrugged. "They just worry." "About what?" He stared at the floor. "About me messing things up." I felt something crack inside my chest. Because I'd spent 18 years teaching that boy he was capable, worthy, enough. And in less than 3 years they had convinced him otherwise. The real turning point came 2 weeks later, when Daniel showed up at my house unannounced. It was raining. Hard. The kind of rain that soaks through coats and bones. He stood on my porch, drenched, eyes red. "They want us to move," he said. "Where?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Closer to them. They found a place. Bigger. They'd help with the down payment. And your house." He swallowed. "They think it makes sense to sell. Put the money into a trust. For future kids. A trust. In their name." I didn't say what I was thinking. I just handed him a towel. That night after Daniel left, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table, the same one where Linda had smiled over pot roast, and replayed every interaction. The compliments. The offers of help. The way they isolated him slowly, gently, like boiling a frog. They weren't trying to hurt him. They were trying to own him. And suddenly something inside me hardened. Not anger. Clarity. You see, people like the Whitmores make one critical mistake. They assume kindness is weakness. They assume quiet women don't notice patterns. They assume mothers stop fighting once their children are grown. They were wrong. I began documenting everything. Texts, emails, helpful suggestions. I listened more than I spoke. When Linda offered to manage Daniel's accounts, I nodded. When Richard suggested putting assets somewhere safe, I smiled. And when Emily hugged me goodbye after Christmas and whispered, "We're just trying to do what's best," I hugged her back. Because by then I had a plan. And traps don't snap shut all at once. They tighten slowly. By the time they realized what I'd done, it would already be too late. The illusion of help. The first rule of setting a trap is this: never let the prey know they're being watched. So I became exactly what the Whitmores expected me to be: agreeable, grateful, and just a little bit overwhelmed by their generosity. When Linda called to tell me they'd taken the liberty of setting up a meeting with a financial advisor for Daniel and Emily, I thanked her. When Richard emailed a spreadsheet outlining family consolidation options, I replied with a polite thumbs-up emoji and a short note. "Looks very organized." Inside, I was building a timeline. Daniel started coming by more often again. Not like before, not with the easy laughter and long Sunday dinners, but enough that I could see the toll it was taking. He'd lost weight. His shoulders curved inward now, like he was apologizing to the air around him. "They mean well," he kept saying, as if repeating it often enough would make it true. I didn't argue. Arguing would have pushed him further into their arms. Instead, I asked questions. "So this trust," I said one evening while we folded laundry together, "who would manage it?" Daniel hesitated. "Richard. Temporarily. And the house proceeds go straight in?" "Yeah. Linda says it's safer that way. Less temptation to spend." I folded a towel slowly. "Spend on what?" He laughed, but it was hollow. "I don't know. Stuff we don't need." I nodded, because that was the point. Convince him his instincts were liabilities. The Whitmores began inviting me over more often. First, I thought it was guilt. Then I realized it was strategy. They wanted me close enough to feel included, but not close enough to interfere. Linda would pull me aside in the kitchen, lower her voice like we were co-conspirators. "Daniel's always been so sensitive," she'd say. "He needs structure." Richard preferred subtle intimidation. One afternoon, while Daniel was upstairs helping Emily, Richard poured himself a drink and gestured for me to join him in the den. "Your son has potential," he said, swirling the whiskey. "But potential requires guidance." I smiled. "He's done all right so far." Richard chuckled. "On his own? Maybe. But family is an ecosystem." An ecosystem? I wondered which part Daniel was supposed to be. The resource? The asset? The expendable piece? That night, I went home and pulled out my old filing cabinet. The one I hadn't opened in years. Inside were documents from a lifetime of necessity: mortgage statements, insurance policies, court paperwork from the divorce, and something else. A manila folder labeled Whitmore LLC. I'd started it the night Daniel told me about the trust. I'm not wealthy, but I am meticulous. And when you've spent decades watching powerful people navigate systems that weren't built for you, you learn how they bend rules without technically breaking them. The Whitmores were careful. They used words like temporary, protective, in Daniel's best interest. But I noticed what they didn't say. They never mentioned exit strategies. The real opening came unexpectedly. Emily called me one afternoon, voice tight. "Daniel's been stressed," she said. "We were hoping you could talk to him." "About what?" I almost asked, but I already knew. They wanted me to reinforce their narrative. Instead, I agreed on one condition. "I think it'd help if we all talk together," I said gently. "As family." There was a pause. Then Emily exhaled. "That's a good idea." It wasn't. For them. We met the following Sunday at a cafe halfway between our homes. Neutral territory. Daniel arrived first, hands jammed in his pockets. Emily followed, polished and serene. Linda and Richard came last, sweeping in like royalty, already waving to people they didn't know. I watched Daniel straighten in his seat the moment they appeared. Conditioned. We ordered drinks. Small talk. Then Richard leaned back. "So," he said, "let's discuss next steps." I tilted my head. "Next steps for what?" "For Daniel's transition," Linda said smoothly. "We've outlined a timeline." Daniel stared at the table. I waited. Then I asked calmly, "What happens if Daniel doesn't want to follow the timeline?" Silence. Emily smiled too quickly. "Of course he does." Richard's jaw tightened. "We've all agreed this is the smartest move." "All?" I echoed. Daniel looked up. Just for a second. But it was enough. The conversation deteriorated quickly after that. Not into shouting, nothing so obvious. But the tone shifted. Richard corrected Daniel mid-sentence. Linda spoke over him. Emily squeezed his knee under the table when he hesitated. And I watched my son disappear in real time. So I did something dangerous. I changed the frame. "I have a confession," I said lightly, stirring my coffee. They all turned to me. "I've been speaking with a lawyer." Emily stiffened. "About what?" "Oh, nothing dramatic," I said. "Estate planning. Just being practical." Richard's eyes sharpened. I realized, I continued, that if Daniel ever needed help, real help, I'd want to make sure he was protected. Independent. Linda laughed. "Of course. That's what we're doing too." I smiled. "I'm sure." After the cafe, Daniel walked me to my car. He looked confused, hopeful, afraid. "They seemed upset," he said. "They don't like uncertainty," I replied. He frowned. "What lawyer?" I met his eyes. "A good one." That night Daniel called me. His voice was low. "They asked me if I told you anything." I closed my eyes. "And?" I said no. There it was. The first crack. The next few weeks were tense. The Whitmores accelerated everything. More meetings. More paperwork. More pressure disguised as concern. They wanted the house listed by spring. They wanted Daniel to take leave from work. They wanted signatures. Always signatures. And I let them think they were winning. I asked innocent questions via email. I requested copies of documents for my records. I CC'd myself on correspondence. I let them explain things in writing. Over. And over. And over. Because people who believe they're smarter than everyone else love to explain themselves. One afternoon while Daniel was at work, Linda stopped by my house unannounced. She brought pastries. Sat at my kitchen table. The same one. "You've been very quiet lately," she said. I sipped my tea. "Just listening." She smiled tightly. "We're doing a lot for Daniel." "I know," I said. "That's why I'm curious." "About?" What happens if something goes wrong? Her smile froze. With the trust, I clarified. If, say, Daniel wanted out. Linda set her cup down carefully. Why would he want that? I leaned forward. Because he's allowed to. She left soon after. Didn't hug me goodbye. Didn't smile. That night, I added another note to the folder. Pressure escalating. Defensive posture observed. The trap was almost ready. But I needed one more thing. Proof. Not suspicion. Not instinct. Something undeniable. And I already knew exactly where to find it. The paper trail they forgot to hide. The thing about people who believe they're untouchable is that they stop double-checking their work. They assume no one will look closely. They assume mothers like me don't understand balance sheets, liability language, or the quiet power of paper. They assume wrong. The proof I needed didn't come from snooping or breaking trust. It came from doing exactly what the Whitmores encouraged me to do. Ask questions. I called the financial advisor Richard had chosen for Daniel and Emily, under the pretense of understanding how everything worked. He was more than happy to explain. People like him always are. His office was all glass and brushed steel, the kind of place where silence costs money. He spoke in practiced reassurance. The trust is designed to protect family assets, he said. Your son will benefit greatly. Who legally controls it? I asked. Well, he said, adjusting his tie. Initially, Mr. Whitmore. For how long? He hesitated. Until certain conditions are met. Which are? Professional stability, geographic consolidation, marital continuity. I smiled politely. And if my son decided to leave the arrangement? The advisor frowned. That would complicate things. How? He cleared his throat. There are clawback provisions. Clawback. Such an ugly word for something so tidy. When I got home, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I opened my folder and wrote in capital letters, "Control without consent." I waited, because timing matters. And then right on cue, Daniel called me late one night. His voice was shaking. They want me to quit, he said. Quit what? My job. Richard says it's misaligned with the family's long-term strategy. I pictured my son, the boy who fixed bikes for neighborhood kids, who worked through college, who took pride in every paycheck, being told he was misaligned. Do you want to quit? I asked. There was a long pause. No. That single word felt like oxygen. The next day, Daniel forwarded me an email. It was from Richard. Subject line: necessary adjustments. It outlined expectations, deadlines, consequences. If Daniel didn't comply, financial support would be reevaluated. The trust might be restructured. Emily was copied. So was the advisor. So was Daniel. They weren't hiding anymore. They were asserting. And that was their second mistake. I showed the email to my lawyer. Her name was Marian Cole. She was sharp, patient, and unimpressed by wealth. She read the message twice. Then she leaned back. They've overplayed their hand, she said. How? I asked. They're creating dependency while threatening loss. That's coercive. My heart pounded. So what do we do? She smiled. We let them keep talking. Daniel moved back into my house that week. Not permanently, just to think. Emily cried. Linda called. Richard sent 3 emails. I didn't answer. Living together again was strange. He was older now, quieter. But at night, when the house settled, we talked. Really talked. He told me about the meetings, the expectations, the subtle insults. They make it sound like I'm nothing without them, he said one night. You're not, I replied. You never were. He nodded, and something in him straightened. Emily showed up 2 days later. She stood in my doorway, eyes red. He's making a mistake, she said. Is he? I asked. He's jeopardizing everything. I crossed my arms. What is everything, Emily? She opened her mouth. Closed it. Finally, she said, "Security." "For whom?" Her silence answered. That night, Daniel showed me something he'd been afraid to mention before. A document Richard had asked him to sign months earlier. A power of attorney. Limited, they'd said. Temporary. He'd signed it without reading the fine print. My hand shook as I scanned it. It wasn't limited. It was expansive. And it was still active. I called Marianne immediately. "This changes things," she said. "Is it bad?" Daniel asked. "It's illegal if misused," Marianne replied. "And based on what you've shown me?" She paused. "It already has been." The trap was no longer hypothetical. It was operational. We moved fast. Marianne filed to revoke the power of attorney. We froze the trust transfer. We documented every communication. And then we waited. Because predators don't retreat quietly. They lash out. The Whitmores responded exactly as predicted. First with confusion. Then with outrage. Then with threats disguised as heartbreak. Emails flooded in. Voicemails. Emily oscillated between tears and anger. Richard demanded meetings. Linda invoked family. None of them apologized. And then Richard made his final fatal mistake. He sent Daniel an email meant for someone else. It arrived at 2:13 a.m. Subject line: Containment Strategy. It outlined how to pressure Daniel back into compliance. References to leveraging marital assets. To avoid reputational damage. To ensure cooperation. Daniel stared at the screen, pale. "They were planning this," he whispered. "Yes," I said. "They were." Marianne nearly laughed when she read it. "They've handed us everything," she said. "What happens now?" Daniel asked. I looked at my son. At the man he'd almost been erased into. "Now," I said, "we spring the trap." When the mask slipped in public, there are confrontations that happen behind closed doors. And then there are the ones that happen where people are watching. I chose the second kind, because people like the Whitmores don't fear consequences, they fear exposure. Marianne advised restraint. "Let the law do its work," she said. But she also understood something else. Their power comes from reputation. Take that away and the rest collapses. So we did both. The Whitmores had always prided themselves on their standing. Country club membership. Charity boards. Church committees. They were donors, speakers, advisors, the kind of people whose names appeared in programs and plaques. So when Linda invited Daniel and me to the annual Whitmore Foundation fundraiser, I accepted. Enthusiastically. She thought it was reconciliation. It was not. The fundraiser was held at a downtown hotel ballroom. Crystal chandeliers. White linens. A string quartet playing something soft and forgettable. Daniel wore his old navy suit. I wore the pearl necklace my mother left me. We arrived on time. The Whitmores arrived late. Of course they did. Linda greeted us with tight hugs. Richard nodded curtly. Emily avoided Daniel's eyes. They thought we were there to beg, to comply, to fall back in line. Instead, we smiled. Halfway through dinner, Richard took the stage. He spoke about integrity, about family values, about stewardship. I watched faces around the room, admiring, trusting, and I waited. When the Q&A opened, I raised my hand. Linda's smile faltered when she saw me stand. "Yes," Richard said, squinting into the lights. "I'm Margaret," I said clearly. "Daniel's mother." Polite applause. I had a question about the foundation's mission. Richard nodded, relieved. "How does the foundation ensure it doesn't exert undue influence over vulnerable individuals under the guise of support?" The room went quiet. Richard blinked. "I'm not sure I understand." I smiled. "I'm asking how you prevent coercion, financial or otherwise, when assistance is offered conditionally." Murmurs rippled. Linda stiffened. Emily stared at the floor. Richard cleared his throat. "Our foundation operates ethically," he said sharply. "We follow all legal guidelines." Excellent, I replied. Then I'm sure you won't mind clarifying the role of power of attorney in your personal financial arrangements. The air changed. This wasn't abstract anymore. This was personal. Someone coughed. A woman in the front row whispered to her husband. Richard's face flushed. This is inappropriate, he snapped. I nodded. That's what I thought when I read the emails. Gasps. Daniel stood beside me now. Strong. Present. Marianne had advised me not to introduce evidence publicly. She was right. So I didn't. I simply let the implication hang. And then I sat down. The damage was done. After dinner, people avoided the Whitmores. Whispers followed them. Questions lingered. Reputation doesn't shatter loudly. Cracks. The legal part moved faster than expected. The power of attorney revocation went through. The trust was frozen pending investigation. Richard's advisor withdrew representation. 2 board members resigned, pending clarification. And then the call came. Emily showed up alone. No makeup. No polish. Just fear. They're blaming me, she said. Who? I asked. My parents. They say I failed to manage him. I felt a pang of something, pity maybe, but not enough to stop. Daniel isn't something to manage, I said. She nodded weakly. The divorce papers arrived a week later, filed by Emily. At her parents' urging, Daniel didn't cry. He looked relieved. Richard tried one last move. A letter, threatening defamation suits. Marianne smiled when she read it. Empty, she said. He's trying to scare you back into silence. I burned it in my fireplace. Carefully. The final hearing was quiet. No drama. No speeches. Just facts. Emails. Documents. Patterns. The judge listened. Asked questions. Took notes. And then ruled. The trust was dissolved. The house sale was halted. Daniel retained full control of his finances. And Richard Whitmore was referred for further investigation. We walked out of the courthouse together. Daniel squinted into the sunlight. I didn't know you could do all this, he said. I squeezed his arm. I didn't either, I admitted. That night, we sat at my kitchen table again. The same one. The trap complete. But the story not yet finished. Because healing takes longer than justice. What power looks like after the storm. People expect endings to be loud. They expect shouting matches, triumphant speeches, villains dragged away in handcuffs. But real endings are quieter. They sound like breathing again. The weeks after the ruling were strange. Too quiet. No emails. No pressure. No carefully worded suggestions pretending to be love. Daniel slept better. So did I. He stayed with me longer than either of us expected. Not because he had nowhere else to go, but because for the first time in years he felt unjudged. We rebuilt routines. Sunday breakfasts. Evening walks. Small repairs around the house. Ordinary things that felt sacred. Emily tried to reach out once. A single text. I didn't know how bad it was. Daniel stared at the phone for a long time. Then he deleted it. Closure doesn't always require conversation. The Whitmores faded. Their foundation quietly rebranded. Richard resigned from 2 boards. Linda stopped hosting. Their circle shrank. Not destroyed. Just diminished. Power rarely disappears, it just moves. Daniel found a new job. One he chose. Smaller company. Less prestige. More autonomy. He smiled more. That mattered. One evening, months later, he said something that stayed with me. I thought strength meant never needing help, he said. I shook my head. No. Strength is knowing when help comes with strings. He nodded. I never told many people what I did. Not out of shame. Out of understanding. Traps aren't about revenge. They're about boundaries. Sometimes I sit at my kitchen table and think about Linda's smile that first night. How confident she was. How certain. And I realized something important. She underestimated the wrong thing. Not my intelligence. Not my resolve, but my love. Because a mother who loves without needing control, she's the most dangerous person in the room.